The greatest battles are never fought on the battlefield. They are fought in silence, inside your own mind. And if you don't conquer that battlefield, you'll lose every other one in life. Today, it's not about what the world is doing to you. It's about what you allow your own mind to do to you. Focus is not just an ability. It is a weapon, a tool, a superpower that separates those who dream from those who achieve. In a world drowning in noise, distractions, and endless options, the rarest skill is the ability to channel your energy in one direction without breaking concentration. Most people underestimate focus because it feels too simple. They think success is about talent, luck, or connections. But the truth is far more brutal. The difference between mediocrity and mastery is focus. When you choose to pour all your attention into one meaningful pursuit, you activate a level of clarity and power that scattered minds will never understand. The mind, like light, is powerful when concentrated. A flashlight spreads beams everywhere, but a laser, though made of the same light, cuts through steel because it is focused. Your life works the same way. Energy scattered produces little impact, but energy focused becomes unstoppable. Distractions today are not small. They are engineered to be addictive. Social media platforms, endless entertainment, constant notifications, and other people's opinions fight for your attention every second. Every ding, every scroll, every click chips away at your ability to think deeply and work consistently. And here's the truth most people never confront. Distractions don't just waste your time, they waste your potential. They rob you of the life you could have lived, the skills you could have developed, and the future you could have built. Think about it. Every hour lost in meaningless distraction is an hour stolen from your destiny. This is why focus must become more than a habit. It must become your highest form of self-respect. To focus is to declare that your purpose matters more than your distractions. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not always the most intelligent or talented. They are the most focused. History is filled with stories of individuals who narrowed their attention to one pursuit and refused to scatter their energy elsewhere. Inventors, leaders, athletes, creators, all of them understood that multitasking was a myth, that doing everything meant doing nothing well, and that mastery required focus. When you commit to focus, you give yourself permission to go deeper than others. While the world skims the surface, dabbling in dozens of half-hearted attempts, you drill down into one area until you strike gold. That is how businesses are built, skills are mastered, and legacies are created through the relentless power of focus. Focus also sharpens decision-making. Without it, your life becomes a blur of half-started projects, unfinished goals, and constant busyness with no real progress. You become exhausted because you're always moving, but never advancing. But when focus takes over, your priorities become clear. You no longer waste energy debating whether something is worth your time, because you know exactly where your time must go. You stop asking, "What should I do today?" and instead declare, "This is what must get done today." Focus gives direction to your discipline, and discipline transforms your potential into progress. Without focus, discipline collapses because there is no clarity on what deserves your attention. With focus, even the hardest tasks feel worthwhile because they are connected to your ultimate vision. Another hidden power of focus is momentum. Every time you focus deeply on a task, you train your brain to push past resistance and enter a state of flow. In this state, time disappears, creativity expands, and productivity multiplies. Athletes call it being in the zone. Musicians call it losing themselves in the music. Entrepreneurs call it grinding until the world takes notice. Whatever you call it, the principle is the same. Focus creates flow, and flow creates breakthroughs. The first few minutes of focused work may feel heavy, but once momentum kicks in, you accomplish in hours what scattered effort couldn't achieve in weeks. That is the power of aligning your mind with a single mission. But make no mistake, focus is not automatic. It is a muscle, and like every muscle, it grows stronger with training. The world will constantly tempt you with shiny distractions. You will be pulled in every direction by demands, pressures, and excuses. That is why focus requires boundaries. You must decide what matters and ruthlessly cut away what doesn't. You must create environments where distractions cannot reach you, because willpower alone is not enough. Focus thrives when you design your life around it. Shut the door, turn off the noise, remove the temptations, and give yourself space to concentrate. The person who protects their focus protects their future. When you develop focus, you also develop patience. In a world addicted to instant gratification, focus teaches you the art of staying committed, even when results are not immediate. Most people quit, not because they lack ability, but because they lose patience. Focus forces you to delay gratification, to trust the process, and to stay locked in until the results appear. This patience compounds into persistence, and persistence eventually guarantees progress. The longer you stay focused on one goal, the greater your chance of breaking through. Success is not about being the fastest, it is about being the most focused for the longest period of time. Focus also transforms confidence. When you scatter your energy, you feel overwhelmed because nothing gets completed, and incomplete work creates self-doubt. But when you finish what you start, when you focus until the task is done, your confidence multiplies. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe in your ability to set a target and hit it. This confidence doesn't just make you feel good, it makes you unstoppable. Every victory, no matter how small, reinforces the truth that you can focus, you can follow through, and you can win. Every day you wake up, before you face the challenges of the outside world, you first face a war inside your own head. The battlefield is not out there. It's not in your workplace. It's not in the economy. It's not in your environment. It's inside your thoughts. The most dangerous enemies are not competitors, not critics, and not doubters. The most dangerous enemies are fear, insecurity, procrastination, and self-sabotage. These silent assassins live in the mind, and they attack you long before the world ever does. That is why your mind is the true battlefield, and until you learn to win the war within, no external victory will ever last. People spend their lives fighting circumstances, blaming conditions, and blaming others when the real fight is much closer. It is against the beliefs, habits, and voices that try to control their thinking. On this battlefield, every thought you entertain is either a weapon that strengthens you or a weakness that destroys you. Positive, empowering thoughts act like armor that protects your confidence, while negative, limiting thoughts tear you down and leave you exposed to failure. The mind has no neutral ground. What you think repeatedly shapes what you become. This is why controlling your thoughts is not optional, it's essential. If you allow fear to dominate your mind, it will paralyze you. If you allow doubt to whisper, it will convince you to quit before you even try. If you allow worry to stay, it will drain the energy you need to take action. On the battlefield of the mind, your survival depends on what you feed it. Every thought is either training you to win or conditioning you to lose, and every day you must decide which one it will be. The problem most people face is that they underestimate the power of this battlefield. They think thoughts are harmless, that they are just mental noise, but thoughts are not passive. They are commands to the body. If you think you can't, your actions will prove you right. If you believe it's impossible, your mind shuts down solutions before they appear. The battlefield of the mind is so powerful that it creates self-fulfilling prophecies. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes your reality, not because the world bends to your thoughts magically, but because your mind directs your focus, and your focus dictates your actions. If you believe you are defeated, you will walk, talk, and act in defeat. If you believe you are capable, you will move with confidence and find opportunities others miss. This is why guarding your mind is not just a suggestion, it is survival training. But the attacks never stop. The enemy in your mind uses repetition. Fear doesn't come once, it comes daily. Doubt doesn't whisper once, it whispers in every quiet moment. Excuses don't visit you occasionally, They sit at the edge of every decision. The battlefield of the mind is relentless, and that is why you must be relentless in fighting back. You cannot take one victory and relax, because the war continues every day. That's why mental discipline must become part of your identity. Just as a soldier trains daily to be ready for battle, you must train your thoughts daily to be ready for the war inside. Meditation, affirmations, journaling, visualization, reading, and practicing gratitude are not just habits. They are weapons and shields. They prepare you to resist the constant attacks that come against your focus, your peace, and your determination. The mind also battles with memory. It constantly reminds you of past failures, past mistakes, and past disappointments. The enemy inside knows how to use your history as ammunition against your future. It says, you failed before, so you'll fail again. You weren't good enough then, and you're not good enough now. And if you don't recognize these thoughts as lies, they become chains that hold you hostage. But the truth is, past failures are not chains. They are lessons. They are proof that you tried, proof that you learned, proof that you are still standing. On the battlefield of the mind, your past is either a prison or a platform, and the choice depends on whether you allow it to weaken you or strengthen you. Another enemy that attacks on this battlefield is comparison. The mind constantly tempts you to measure your worth against the success of others. You see what others have achieved, and you tell yourself you are behind, you are late, or you are not enough. But comparison is a trap designed to distract you from your own path. On this battlefield, comparison wastes your energy, because instead of building your life, you spend your time wishing for someone else's. You lose focus, you lose confidence, and you lose momentum. The truth is that your mind cannot fight two wars at once. You cannot fight for your destiny while fighting with envy at the same time. To win this battle, you must fix your eyes on your own mission and starve the thoughts that feed comparison. The most important truth about this battlefield is that the war is never truly against external forces. It is against the internal narrative you accept. When something difficult happens, your mind either says, "This is the end," or "This is the beginning." When rejection shows up, your mind either says, "I'm worthless," or "I'm being redirected." When challenges arise, your mind either says, "I can't handle this," or "I will grow stronger from this." The events are the same, but the battlefield is won or lost in the story you attach to them. That is why people in the same situation can experience completely different outcomes. One person crumbles under pressure, another rises, not because the circumstances were different, but because the battle in the mind was fought differently. The mind is the command center of your destiny. If you lose the battle there, nothing else matters. But if you win there, everything else becomes possible. Winning starts with awareness. Awareness that thoughts are not harmless, that doubts are not casual, that fear is not to be entertained. Awareness that every day your mind is under attack, and every day you must decide to fight back with focus, with truth, with discipline, and with resilience. This is not a war you fight once, but a war you fight daily, and the reward for winning is freedom, strength, and unstoppable momentum. Motivation is powerful, but it is not permanent. It comes like a wave. Sometimes it's strong, lifting you high with energy and excitement, but just as quickly it can fade, leaving you stranded in the low tide of procrastination. Too many people build their lives on motivation alone, waiting for that spark, waiting for that good mood, waiting for that rush of inspiration to get started. But the truth is, those who rely on motivation will always be inconsistent, because feelings are unreliable and emotions are temporary. Discipline, on the other hand, is not based on emotion. It is based on decision. Discipline is the steady, consistent force that carries you forward when motivation disappears. It is the structure that holds your life together when your mood collapses. That is why discipline beats motivation every single time. Discipline is not glamorous. It is not as exciting as the adrenaline of motivation. Discipline is quiet, repetitive, sometimes boring, and often uncomfortable. But it is in that repetition and discomfort that real transformation happens. Motivation may get you to the gym once, but discipline gets you there every day. Motivation may inspire you to start a business, but discipline is what makes you show up and run it when you feel tired, stressed, or discouraged. Motivation might help you write a few pages of a book, but discipline is what finishes the manuscript after months of effort. Discipline doesn't care about moods, it only cares about actions, and actions, repeated over time, create results. The danger of relying on motivation is that it tricks you into thinking you are progressing just because you feel inspired. Inspiration without consistent action is wasted energy. Many people attend seminars, listen to motivational talks, or read inspiring books, and for a moment they feel unstoppable. But then days later, that feeling fades, and they go back to old habits. This cycle of short-term motivation followed by long-term inaction is the reason so many people stay stuck. Discipline breaks this cycle. It ensures that whether you feel like it or not, you move forward. It anchors your life in commitment, not convenience, and commitment always outlasts mood. Discipline is also the great equalizer. Not everyone is born with the same talents, opportunities, or resources, but everyone has access to discipline. You may not be the most gifted in your field, but you can outwork those who are more talented but undisciplined. You may not have the most knowledge at the beginning, but if you show up with consistency, your discipline will compound into expertise. Discipline levels the playing field, because while motivation gives a temporary advantage, discipline builds permanent strength. Talent may open doors, but only discipline keeps them open. Another power of discipline is that it trains your character. Discipline is not just about habits, it is about identity. Every time you follow through on a commitment, even when it's difficult, you send a message to yourself that you are reliable, that you can be trusted, that you are the kind of person who does what they said they would do. This builds self-respect, and self-respect builds confidence. Without discipline, you erode your own trust. You promise yourself you'll do something, then you don't, and each time you fail to follow through, you weaken your own belief in your ability to change. With discipline, however, you reinforce the truth that you are in control of your actions, not your emotions, and that truth becomes unshakable. Discipline also protects your time. When you live on motivation, you waste countless hours negotiating with yourself, waiting to feel ready, waiting for the right moment. Discipline removes the debate. There is no room for "should I" or "do I feel like it?" The decision has already been made in advance. The action happens regardless of mood, and this eliminates procrastination. Think of the energy wasted by people who wait for motivation. They delay, hesitate, and overthink, and by the time they feel ready, the opportunity is gone. Discipline, however, takes action immediately because it does not ask permission from feelings, it simply executes. One of the greatest strengths of discipline is its ability to build momentum. The first step is always the hardest, but once you take it and repeat it consistently, discipline makes it automatic. Habits are formed through repetition, and discipline is the engine of that repetition. At first, discipline feels heavy, like lifting a weight that your body is not used to. But over time, as you keep showing up, the weight feels lighter, the habit becomes natural, and what once required discipline becomes effortless. This is how people change their lives, not through bursts of motivation, but through the quiet, consistent grind of discipline, until the new habit becomes their new normal. Discipline also prepares you for adversity. Life is unpredictable. There will be days of exhaustion, days of failure, days of disappointment. If your life is built on motivation, these days will crush you, because you won't feel like moving forward. But if your life is built on discipline, you will continue regardless of how you feel. Discipline does not shield you from pain, but it gives you the resilience to keep going in spite of it. It makes you unstoppable because it removes feelings from the equation. You may be tired, you may be discouraged, you may even be heartbroken, but discipline says, do it anyway. And in doing it anyway, you build strength that no motivational speech could ever give you. At its core, discipline is freedom disguised as restriction. Many people think discipline is about limitation, about denying yourself fun or flexibility, but in truth, discipline creates freedom. When you are disciplined with your health, you gain the freedom of energy and longevity. When you are disciplined with your money, you gain the freedom of financial security and opportunity. When you are disciplined with your work, you gain the freedom of choice and influence. Without discipline, you are a slave to moods, impulses, and circumstances. With discipline, you are free because you are in control of yourself. Inside every person lives a voice that whispers, persuades, and rationalizes failure long before it happens. It is the inner voice of excuses, the subtle, convincing narrative that tells you why you can't, why you shouldn't, and why it's okay to settle. This voice doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't fight you with force, it convinces you with logic. It sounds like a protector, but in reality, it is a thief that steals your potential and robs you of the life you could have lived. Excuses are not harmless, they are chains. And the cruelest part is that these chains are self-forged. To conquer your mind, you must first learn to conquer this inner voice, because as long as it rules you, every goal will be half-hearted, every dream will be delayed, and every opportunity will be wasted. The inner voice of excuses often disguises itself as reason. It tells you, I'm too tired today, I'll start tomorrow. Or, I don't have the time right now, life is too busy. Or, it's not the right moment, I'll wait until things are better. These words feel logical, but they are deadly because they push your goals into the future, a future that never comes. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year, and next year becomes never. The voice doesn't attack you directly. It gently nudges you into procrastination until time itself runs out. People spend years stuck in the loop of later, not realizing that later is the enemy of progress. Conquering this voice requires the brutal honesty to recognize excuses for what they are. Not reasons, not justifications, but lies designed to keep you comfortable while your potential dies. Comfort is the favorite weapon of excuses. The voice doesn't want you to push past limits, because limits require discomfort. It tells you to stay in bed instead of waking up early, to skip the workout instead of showing up at the gym, to avoid the risk instead of seizing the opportunity. It convinces you that safety is wisdom, when in truth, safety is stagnation. Excuses feed on your desire to stay comfortable, but comfort zones are invisible prisons. They promise security, but deliver mediocrity. Every excuse you accept strengthens the walls of that prison, making it harder to break free. The only way to escape is to reject the comfort that excuses offer and step into the discomfort that growth demands. Excuses also thrive on comparison. The inner voice says, look at how far ahead others are. You'll never catch up, so why bother? Or, other people are more talented, more connected, more prepared, so your effort won't matter. Comparison becomes the excuse for not trying, and in that comparison your energy drains before you even begin. But the truth is, you are not running their race. You are running yours. Excuses twist your vision, making you believe that because you cannot do everything, you should do nothing. But progress is not about perfection or competition. It is about movement. Every step forward counts, and every small victory silences the voice of excuses. The voice of excuses is also skilled at magnifying obstacles. It takes small challenges and turns them into impossible mountains. It whispers, you don't have enough time, enough money, enough knowledge, enough experience. It magnifies the gap between where you are and where you want to be until the gap feels unbridgeable. But the truth is, no one ever starts with enough. Every achiever begins in lack of time, lack of resources, lack of knowledge, but they begin anyway. Excuses make you believe that you must have everything figured out before you start, but progress comes from starting with what you have and learning along the way. Conquering excuses means refusing to be paralyzed by what you lack, and instead using what you have to take the next step forward. Fear is the deepest fuel for excuses. The voice tells you, what if you fail? What if you look foolish? What if people laugh at you? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. These fears hide behind excuses because excuses are easier to admit than fear. It's easier to say, I don't have the time, than to say, I'm afraid of failing. But until you expose fear for what it is, you will always let excuses control you. Conquering excuses means confronting fear directly. Failure is not the enemy. Inaction is. Rejection is not the enemy. Regret is. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of excuses lingers for a lifetime. The inner voice of excuses grows louder the more you listen to it. Every time you accept an excuse, you strengthen its power. If you give in once, it becomes easier to give in again. This is why many people live trapped in cycles of unfulfilled potential. They've trained themselves to obey excuses instead of resisting them. But the opposite is also true. The more you resist excuses, the weaker they become. Each time you do the work, even when you don't feel like it, each time you show up despite discomfort, you silence the voice. You rewire your mind to associate excuses with lies instead of logic. Over time, this resistance builds a new voice inside you. The voice of discipline, the voice of resilience, the voice that says, do it anyway. Conquering excuses is not about silencing them forever. They will always try to speak. It is about refusing to let them dictate your actions. It is about hearing the voice say, I'm too tired, and still getting up. Hearing the voice say, it's too risky, and still moving forward. Hearing the voice say, it's not the right time, and still starting today. The voice never completely disappears, but your power grows stronger than its influence. The real measure of growth is not whether excuses stop whispering, but whether you stop obeying them. Your life is a reflection of what you choose to focus on. Every outcome, every emotion, every decision is shaped not by what happens to you, but by what you allow to dominate your attention. Two people can face the same situation. One sees possibility, the other sees impossibility. The difference is not in the circumstance, but in the focus. Your mind is a powerful lens, and whatever you direct it toward grows larger. Focus magnifies reality. Focus on problems, and problems multiply. Focus on opportunities, and opportunities expand. Focus on pain, and pain intensifies. Focus on progress, and progress accelerates. This principle is not theory. It is a universal truth, and it is working in your life whether you are conscious of it or not. The human brain is designed to filter information. Every second, millions of pieces of data are presented to you, but your mind cannot process them all, so it filters based on focus. What you repeatedly think about, what you consistently give attention to, becomes the filter through which you experience life. If you constantly focus on what is missing, your brain will highlight every lack, every limitation, every deficiency. But if you focus on what is possible, your brain begins to notice opportunities you would have otherwise ignored. This is why two people can walk through the same room and see entirely different things. One notices everything wrong, while the other sees potential. The room didn't change, the focus did. Focus also shapes your emotional state. The quality of your emotions is determined by what you concentrate on. If you focus on the worst parts of your day, you will feel drained, angry, or hopeless. If you focus on the best parts, you will feel grateful, energized, and strong. Life does not always change immediately, but your focus can change in an instant, and when focus shifts, your emotions follow. Many people live in unhappiness not because their lives are unbearable, but because they keep focusing on the negative. They replay mistakes, magnify setbacks, and dwell on failures, creating a reality where joy feels impossible. Others, with the same struggles, choose to focus on growth, lessons, and possibilities. And in doing so, they create a reality filled with hope. Your reality is not just built by what happens, it is built by what you choose to see. Focus also influences action. What you focus on determines what you pursue, and what you pursue determines what you achieve. If you focus on fear, you avoid opportunities. If you focus on doubt, you hold back from trying. If you focus on excuses, you delay action. But if you focus on vision, you move forward. If you focus on solutions, you find creative ways to overcome. If you focus on growth, you take risks that expand your capacity. Your future is shaped less by what you say you want and more by what you consistently focus on, because focus drives behavior. Where attention goes, energy flows, and results follow. Focus can also create blind spots. When you fix your attention on the wrong thing, you distort reality. If you focus too much on obstacles, you miss opportunities. If you focus too much on problems, you miss progress. If you focus too much on what others think, you miss your own path. The danger of misplaced focus is that it makes you believe that what you are seeing is the whole truth, when in fact, it is only a piece of it. That is why shifting your focus is so powerful. It changes not the world, but the way you experience the world. And when your perception changes, your choices change. And when your choices change, your results change. Another hidden power of focus is that it trains your subconscious mind. The more you focus on something, the more your brain seeks it out automatically. This is why when you buy a new car, suddenly you see that same model everywhere. It was always there, but your brain filtered it out until your focus made it relevant. The same principle applies to success, growth, and opportunities. If you constantly focus on your goals, your subconscious begins to notice chances, connections, and resources that align with them. Focus acts like a magnet. It attracts into your awareness the very things you need to advance. This is not magic. It is the natural outcome of the brain aligning with consistent attention. Focus is also the foundation of resilience. When life becomes difficult, your focus decides whether you quit or keep going. If you focus on the pain, the hardship feels unbearable. If you focus on the purpose, the hardship feels worth it. The struggle doesn't change, but your ability to endure it does, because your attention determines whether you are consumed by suffering or fueled by meaning. People who survive and thrive through adversity are not always the strongest physically, but they are the strongest mentally because they fix their focus on the outcome instead of the obstacle. They see beyond the current moment and anchor their minds on what lies ahead. That focus gives them strength when others collapse. Discipline and focus are inseparable. Focus without discipline is scattered energy, and discipline without focus is wasted effort. Together, they create mastery. When you discipline yourself to continually direct your focus toward growth, toward solutions, toward opportunities, you train your mind to create a reality of success. But when you allow your focus to drift uncontrolled, your discipline erodes, and your reality reflects distraction, inconsistency, and stagnation. Focus must be intentional, because the world is filled with noise trying to steal it. Every advertisement, every notification, every distraction competes for your attention, and if you don't guard it, your reality will be shaped by things that do not matter. At the deepest level, your focus reveals your priorities. Whatever you give consistent attention to becomes your life. If you focus on trivial entertainment, your life will be trivial. If you focus on gossip, your life will be small. If you focus on growth, your life will expand. If you focus on purpose, your life will have meaning. Focus is not just about what you look at. It is about what you live for. What you dwell on becomes what you build, and what you build becomes the reality you experience. The future you dream of will never arrive if your focus is scattered, but it will take shape piece by piece if your focus is directed with clarity and persistence. Mastery is not built in a single day, a single effort, or a single moment of inspiration. It is the result of showing up again and again, long after the initial excitement has faded. Consistency is the quiet force that separates those who dabble from those who dominate, those who quit halfway from those who rise to excellence. Many people start strong, full of passion and motivation, but only a few finish strong. And the difference is not intelligence, luck, or talent. It is consistency. Doing the small, often unglamorous actions every day compounds into results so significant that they appear almost magical to those who do not understand the process. What looks like overnight success is always the result of years of consistency hidden behind the scenes. Consistency builds mastery because repetition carves skill into your character. Every time you practice, every time you show up, every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are sharpening your ability. A musician who practices every day may not notice dramatic improvement after one session, but after weeks and months of repetition, their skill transforms. An athlete who trains daily may not see results immediately, but after seasons of showing up, they move with speed and precision that astonishes the untrained eye. A writer who writes consistently may not feel inspired each time, but over time, words flow with ease and depth. The truth is simple. Mastery is not created by what you do occasionally, but by what you do consistently. The power of consistency lies in compounding. Small actions, repeated over time, multiply into extraordinary outcomes. Reading a few pages daily doesn't seem powerful until years later, when your knowledge surpasses those who never developed the habit. Saving a small amount of money consistently doesn't feel life-changing at first, but over years it builds wealth that surprises everyone who doubted you. Training your body with daily effort may not show dramatic results immediately, but consistency turns weakness into strength and fatigue into endurance. Compounding rewards the consistent and punishes the inconsistent. Those who start and stop never experience the exponential growth that only consistency unlocks. Another reason consistency builds mastery is because it transforms discipline into habit. At first, showing up requires willpower. You have to fight resistance, push yourself through laziness, and overcome the urge to quit. But the more consistent you become, the less you rely on motivation, and the more you rely on automatic behavior. The habit takes root, and what once felt difficult becomes part of your identity. This is the shift from effort to flow. When consistency becomes ingrained, you no longer ask yourself whether you will show up. It simply becomes who you are. The runner runs because they are a runner. The creator creates because they are a creator. The learner studies because they are a learner. Identity takes over and mastery follows. Consistency also teaches patience, and patience is an essential ingredient of mastery. In a world addicted to speed and instant gratification, many give up because results do not appear fast enough. They expect transformation in days and breakthroughs in weeks, but mastery takes months, years, sometimes decades. Consistency forces you to trust the process even when the progress is invisible. It forces you to plant seeds and water them daily, even when the soil looks unchanged. The impatient quit before they see the harvest, but the consistent endure until the results reveal themselves. Patience may feel painful, but it is in that waiting and working that mastery is quietly being built. Consistency also eliminates the illusion of talent. Talent may open the first door, but only consistency keeps you inside. Many gifted individuals fail to achieve greatness because they rely on natural ability without the discipline of repetition. Meanwhile, those with less talent but more consistency surpass them because steady effort compounds into greater skill. The consistent person, though average at the start, becomes exceptional over time, while the talented but inconsistent person remains stagnant. Mastery is never reserved for the most gifted. It is reserved for the most consistent. One of the greatest powers of consistency is that it builds momentum. The hardest part of any journey is the beginning, when effort feels heavy and results seem far away. But once you commit and repeat, momentum begins to carry you forward. What was once difficult becomes easier, and what was once exhausting becomes energizing. Momentum transforms consistency from a struggle into a rhythm, and that rhythm creates a sense of inevitability. You no longer question if progress will come. You know it will, because your consistent effort guarantees it. Momentum is the invisible force that rewards those who keep showing up, and once it takes hold, mastery is only a matter of time. Consistency also builds trust, both with yourself and with others. With yourself, consistency proves that you can rely on your own word, that you are capable of following through on commitments, and that you are not ruled by fleeting emotions. Each consistent act strengthens your belief in yourself, creating confidence that cannot be shaken. With others, Consistency demonstrates reliability, integrity, and credibility. People trust those who are steady, who show up when they say they will, who deliver again and again. Mastery is not only about skill, but also about trust, and consistency builds both simultaneously. Consistency demands sacrifice because it requires you to say no to distractions, to endure boredom, to push past comfort. It demands that you give up the illusion of fast results and commit to the long road. But that sacrifice is the price of mastery. The world rewards the consistent not because they never struggled, but because they never stopped. Every day they chose to move forward, even if it was only a small step, and those steps added up to a distance others could not imagine covering. Mastery belongs to the few who understand that the journey is not won in leaps, but in daily steps, repeated with discipline and persistence. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every triumph in life begins in the invisible battlefield of the mind. Before you win in the world, you must first win inside yourself. Victory is not something you stumble upon by accident, nor is it handed to you by chance or circumstance. It is cultivated, nurtured, and fought for in the unseen places where no one else can witness the struggle. The external victories that inspire others are only reflections of the internal victories that few ever see. A person who conquers mountains first conquers doubt. A person who builds an empire first builds courage. A person who inspires millions first inspires themselves to keep going when no one else believes. Victory starts within, because without mastering yourself, you cannot master anything outside of you. The mind is the origin of either defeat or triumph. What you think shapes how you feel, how you act, and ultimately what you create. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, fear, and excuses, then your actions will mirror hesitation and weakness. But if your inner dialogue is filled with strength, vision, and determination, then your actions will mirror courage and consistency. Too many people lose battles before they even begin, because they allow defeat to take root in their thoughts. They convince themselves they are not enough, they cannot win, or the odds are too great. But those who achieve greatness understand that the war is won by mastering the narrative within. They feed their minds with focus instead of fear, with solutions instead of excuses, with vision instead of distraction. Victory also begins with self-discipline. The most dangerous enemy is not the competitor, the critic, or the doubter. It is the weaker version of yourself that wants comfort, laziness, and ease. Every day you fight against the part of you that seeks shortcuts, the part of you that wants to give up, the part of you that justifies procrastination. To achieve true victory, you must confront that version of yourself and choose to rise above it. Each time you do what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, you gain ground in the inner battle. Each time you reject the temptation of excuses, you strengthen your willpower. And each time you honor your commitment to yourself, you reinforce the truth that you are stronger than your weaknesses. Belief is another pillar of inner victory. You cannot achieve externally what you do not believe internally. Belief acts as a foundation, setting the standard for what is possible in your life. If you believe you are limited, you will live limited. If you believe you are capable, you will act in alignment with that capacity. The most successful people are not those who had perfect circumstances, but those who built unshakable belief in themselves. They did not wait for the world to validate them. They validated themselves first. Belief is not arrogance. It is confidence rooted in clarity of purpose. When you believe deeply, you unlock resilience, because no obstacle can outweigh the certainty of your conviction. Victory within also requires clarity of vision. You cannot win if you do not know what you are fighting for. Too many people drift aimlessly, hoping to stumble into success, but internal victory demands intentionality. You must know what you want, why you want it, and what you are willing to endure to achieve it. Clarity eliminates distraction, sharpens focus, and provides direction in moments of uncertainty. A person with clarity can withstand setbacks because they understand that temporary struggles are part of a larger purpose. Without clarity, obstacles feel like dead ends. With clarity, obstacles become detours that still lead you toward the destination. The mind anchored in vision cannot be easily shaken. The power of inner victory also lies in resilience. Life will test you with hardship, disappointment, and failure. If your sense of worth and strength is built only on external circumstances, you will collapse when they shift against you. But if your victory is rooted within, then no storm can uproot you. Resilience is the ability to get back up again and again, to refuse to surrender when others would have walked away. It is born in the quiet moments when you encourage yourself, when you remind yourself of your purpose, when you decide that quitting is not an option. Resilience is the echo of victory within, a reminder that no matter how hard the external battle becomes, you already possess the strength to endure it. Another aspect of victory within is emotional mastery. Emotions are powerful, but left unchecked. They can sabotage your progress. Fear can paralyze, anger can distract, doubt can weaken resolve. But when you learn to master your emotions, you reclaim control. Mastery does not mean ignoring or suppressing emotions. It means acknowledging them, but refusing to be ruled by them. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite fear. Discipline is not the absence of temptation. It is the decision to choose purpose over impulse. True victory is not in never feeling weak, but in refusing to let weakness dictate your choices. The one who masters their emotions holds the key to lasting victory. Finally, victory within begins with self-respect. If you do not value yourself, no amount of external validation will satisfy you. Respecting yourself means honoring your time, keeping your promises, and living in alignment with your values. It means not lowering your standards to please others, not betraying your integrity for temporary gain, and not abandoning your goals because of temporary feelings. Self-respect creates an inner strength that cannot be bought, borrowed, or broken. It allows you to walk with dignity even when the world doubts you, to keep pushing even when progress is unseen, to believe in your worth even when others do not. Without self-respect, victories are hollow. With it, victories are meaningful because they reflect not just what you achieved, but who you became in the process.